Hello children, I hope you are all happy and safe. Welcome to this special English hour. Here, every day, we will sing, dance, listen to stories and have lots of fun together. Every day, we will learn something new in a fun and interesting way. Are you ready to have fun? Then come, join me in a song. बच्चों, टीवी के जरा नजदीक आ जाइए और मेरे साथ एक डांस में जुड़ जाइए।
All these animals in the zoo, all day long, what do? Walk, talk, study, no, they dance. All these animals in the zoo, how do you think do the snakes dance? They wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle and wiggle. All these animals in the zoo, how do you think do the penguins dance? They waddle. Waddle, waddle, waddle and waddle. All these animals in the zoo, how do you think do the elephants dance? They sway. Sway, sway, sway and sway.
Children, I hope you all enjoyed the dance we just did. Children, words are very important for a language. Come, let's learn some new words today. I will give you a few new words. Please note them down in your notebook and you will find these words in the lesson that we will read today. While reading it, try to guess their meaning. The first word is summon. 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 The second word is knelt. 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 The third word is courage. 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 The fourth word is honor. 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 The fifth word is offense. 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 So children, the new words that we will learn today are summon, knelt, courage, honor and offense. बच्चों, ये शब्द हम आज लेसन में सीखेंगे. Children, today we are going to read a very interesting chapter. Please open your textbooks to page number 28. We are going to read the lesson Sultan Ghiyasuddin in the Qazi's court. If you have a textbook, Please point to the words as I read. And if you don't have a textbook, please listen to me carefully. बच्चों, आज हम एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग लेसन पढ़ने वाले हैं। अगर आपके पास टेक्स्ट बुक है तो प्लीज़ अपनी उंगली कुछ इस तरीके से शब्दों पर रखें जब मैं पढ़ रही हूँ, और अगर आपके पास टेक्स्ट बुक नहीं है तो प्लीज़ मुझे गौर से सुनें। सुल्तान घियासुद्दीन in the Qazi's court. Hundreds of years ago, in the eastern province of Bengal, Sultan Ghiyasuddin Azam Shah ruled the land. His capital was Sonargaon. Sultan Ghiyasuddin was a good ruler. He ruled wisely and well. He respected men of learning. He had a deep regard for law. Children, how old is this story? बच्चों, ये कहानी कितनी पुरानी है? This story is hundreds of years old. About which place is this story? This story is about Bengal. What was the name of the ruler? The name of the ruler was Sultan Ghiyasuddin Azam Shah. How was the ruler? The ruler was intelligent, wise, and a very good person. He had great respect for learned men and the law of the land. He respected the rules, regulations, and that justice should prevail. ये कहानी है बंगाल के एक राजा की, सुल्तान घियासुद्दीन आजम शाह। राजा बड़े ही अच्छे दिल के थे और अपनी प्रजा के सभी विद्वान लोगों का वो खूब आदर करते। One day, while the Sultan was practicing with his bow and arrows, he accidentally wounded the only son of a poor widow. The wounded boy did not survive. Weeping and wailing, the poor widow went to the Quazi and told him what had happened. One day, Sultan Ghiyasuddin was practicing with his bow and arrow. The arrow accidentally injured a boy. The boy did not survive. The boy's mother was a widow. She was weeping and wailing, and she came to their religious leader, the Quazi. She told the Quazi everything that had happened. The Quazi was an honest and upright man. He sent an officer to summon the Sultan to his court. When the officer reached the palace, the guards stopped him and inquired about his business. When they learned that he had come to serve a summon on the Sultan, they were shocked. They refused to let him go inside the palace. The Quazi was an honest and upright man. He was truthful. After listening to the widow, he sent one of his officers to summon the king, to call the king to come to his court. The officer went to the king's palace. Over there, the guards standing at the gate, inquired with the officer why had he come to the palace. The officer told the guards that he had come to summon the king to the Qazi's court. At this, the guards were shocked. They wondered, how can a Qazi summon the king? They did not allow the officer to go inside the palace. The officer was now in a fix. The guards did not allow him to enter the palace, but he knew that he could not return without serving the summon. The Qazi would not take him back. He had to find a way of reaching the Sultan somehow. What could he do? He thought and thought. The officer had come to the palace to serve a summon to the king. That is, to inform the king that he needs to come and meet with the Qazi to discuss this matter. The guards did not allow the officer to go inside the palace. So, the officer was in a fix as to what he should do now. He wondered that even if he went back to the Qazi would not take him. So the officer began to think as to what he should do. At last, he began to sound the azan, the call for the prayer, loudly, just outside the palace. It was not yet time for the prayer. When the Sultan heard the loud, untimely call, he was greatly surprised. He ordered that the man giving the call should be brought before him immediately. The officer had an idea. Right outside the palace, the officer began saying the azan, the prayer, very loudly. The Sultan heard the officer saying the azan, and the Sultan wondered that it was still not time for prayer. So he immediately asked his guards to go and bring the person who was saying the prayers at the wrong time. अफसर को एक विचार आया. उन्होंने राजा के दरबार के बाहर ही जोर जोर से अजान पढ़ना शुरू कर दिया. सुल्तान को जब उनके अजान की आवाज सुनाई दी, तब सुल्तान ने सोचा कि अभी तक अजान का समय नहीं हुआ था. तो ये कौन था जो जोर जोर से इस वक्त पर अजान पढ़ रहा था? सुल्तान ने अपने पहरेदारों से कहा कि उस आदमी को उनके दरबार में पेश करे. His soldiers rushed out of the palace gates, caught the officer and took him to the Sultan within moments. When the officer knelt before the Sultan, he was trembling with fear. But he mustered all his courage and explained why he had given the call for azan. Then, with shaking hands, he gave the summons to the Sultan. Sultan Ghiyasuddin took it without making any comment. He read the summons and told the officer to go back to the Qazi. He announced that he would appear in the Qazi's court the next day. The king's guards at once brought the officer inside the palace. Inside the palace, the king was waiting for the officer. The officer knelt before the king and explained to him why he was saying the azan loudly. Then, with trembling hands, he gave the Qazi summons to the king. The king read the summons and did not make any comment. He told the officer that he will come to the Qazi's court the very next day. राजा के पहरेदार अफसर को राजा के दरबार में ले आए। अफसर अपने घुटनों पर थे और कांपते हाथों के साथ उन्होंने राजा को बताया कि वो क्यों जोर जोर से अजान पढ़ रहे थे। फिर उन्होंने काजी का फरमान राजा को दिया। राजा ने फरमान पढ़कर अफसर से कहा कि वो अगले दिन काजी के पास जरूर मिलने आएंगे। The next morning, the Sultan got ready to appear before the Qazi. He hid a sharp sword in his robe and set out. The courtroom was packed with people. Everyone was eager to see what would happen. The Qazi entered and took his place on the high seat of honor. In a little while, Sultan Ghiyasuddin entered the courtroom. Everyone stood up to show respect to the Sultan. But the Qazi did not get up. The Sultan stood in the docks and the trial began. The next day, Sultan Ghiyasuddin left for the Qazi's court. He had a sharp sword in his robe. The Qazi took his place on the high seat in the courtroom. When Sultan Ghiyasuddin entered the courtroom, everyone bowed to him to show their respect. But the Qazi did not stand up. Sultan Ghiyasuddin was made to stand in the docks and the trial began. अगले ही दिन सुल्तान लंबी तलवार लेकर काजी के दरबार के लिए निकले। काजी के दरबार में काजी ने बड़े पद पर अपनी जगह बनाई। सुल्तान जैसे ही दरबार में आए, प्रजा ने आदर में अपना सिर झुकाया, लेकिन काजी खड़े तक नहीं हुए। राजा कटघरे में खड़े हुए और मुकदमा शुरू हुआ। The widow presented her complaint. The Qazi took note of all the evidence and, in a grave voice, addressed the Sultan. You are guilty of causing the death of the only son of this poor widow. According to the law, you must pay a fine for this offense. I order you to do that without delay. In the courtroom, the widow presented her complaint. The Qazi noted everything down and in a grave, serious voice told the Sultan that he was guilty and that he must pay a fine for his offense for the wrong he had done. विधवा महिला ने अपनी शिकायत काजी को बताई। काजी ने उनकी सारी कही बातें लिखी और फिर राजा से कहा कि उन्हें एक विधवा महिला के बेटे को मारने का जुर्माना भरना ही पड़ेगा। The Sultan accepted the judgment and apologized to the widow. He arranged to pay the fine immediately. The widow felt satisfied that the offense was brought home to the offender. The Sultan accepted the judgment and apologized, said sorry to the widow. He immediately arranged for the amount of the fine. The widow felt satisfied that even though her complaint was against the king, the Qazi ensured and gave her justice. राजा ने विधवा महिला से माफी मांगी और जुर्माना भरने की तैयारी की। विधवा महिला इसी बात से सहमत थी कि राजा ने भी अपनी गलती मानी और उन्हें न्याय मिला। When the case was over, the Qazi got up from his high seat of honor. Respectfully, he bowed to the Sultan and requested him to take his seat. The Sultan then drew the hidden sword from his robes and told the Qazi, I am happy that you did not waver in your duty. You did not hesitate to punish me. Otherwise, I would have beheaded you with this sword. After the trial was over, the Qazi got off from his seat, bowed to the Sultan and offered him to sit on his high seat. The Sultan told the Qazi that he was very happy that the Qazi did not hesitate in taking the judgment. The Sultan also tells the Qazi that had he not given the right judgment, the Sultan would have beheaded him. मुकदमे के बाद काजी अपनी जगह से उठे, सुल्तान के सामने सिर झुकाया और सुल्तान से कहा कि वो उनके पद पर बैठ जाएं। सुल्तान ने काजी से कहा कि वो उनसे बहुत खुश थे क्योंकि उन्होंने विधवा महिला को न्याय दिलाया और सही निर्णय लेने में जरा सा भी नहीं हिचकिचाए। सुल्तान ने काजी से कहा कि अगर सही निर्णय लेने में काजी हिचकिचाते या पीछे हटते तो सुल्तान उनका वहीं पर सिर काट देते। The Qazi then put his hand under the cushion where the Sultan was seated and brought out a whip. He said, Your Majesty, I am happy because you obeyed the law. Otherwise, I would have whipped you in this court. The Sultan then got up and embraced the Qazi. Thank God we both did our duty, he said. Everyone present in the courtroom praised the two great men. The Qazi removed a whip from under his seat. He told the Sultan that if he would not have paid the penalty to the widow, he would have whipped him in his court like any other criminal. Listening to this, the Sultan praised the Qazi. He was happy that both of them lived up and did their duty. काजी ने अपनी गद्दी के नीचे से कोड़ा निकाला और सुल्तान को दिखाया। काजी ने सुल्तान से कहा कि अगर वो जुर्माना भरने से कतराते तो काजी भी किसी भी आम अपराधी की तरह सुल्तान को भी कोड़े से मारते। दोनों ने ही अपनी पूरी जिम्मेदारी निभाई। इस बात पर दोनों ने एक दूसरे को गले से लगा लिया। दरबार में खड़े सभी लोग उन्हें देखकर प्रसन्न हुए। Children, what did we learn in this lesson? बच्चों, हमें इस कहानी से क्या सीख मिलती है? We can learn from this lesson that we must be honest and responsible. We must always do our duties well. The Sultan and the Qazi were both very powerful people, but the Sultan accepted his mistake and paid the penalty to the widow. The Qazi also gave a fair judgment. Both of them did their duty well, and that is why the people praised them. We must also try to learn the same. Till we meet next time, please take care, bye bye, and stay safe.